On this week's episode, we are airing a podcast within a podcast. Nicole and I had the privilege and honor of being guests for the very first time on the After the Bell podcast with Roy and Martin. They had reached out to us through Spotify after airing our very first episode, and they were supporting us along the way as educators themselves.
Roy and Martin have taught for a combined 70 years. We join these two educators from Vancouver, Canada, as they take you on a journey through the wonderful yet challenging profession of teaching. On their podcast, they guarantee us to laugh, which we did, make us think, and give us one little nugget at least that we can use in our classrooms. So please join us as we are welcomed on their podcast, After the Bell.
One I've recently discovered, and it's Teachers Next Door, which in fact comes out of next door in the province of Alberta.
Oh,
Yeah.
So next door.
It really is.
Right.
And it's these two teachers, Nicole and Michelle, who are also teachers who used to live next door to each other and became very good friends. And they've just started their podcast journey. They're sticking with it and they're doing a great job. And they reminded me of us, right?
Okay.
Because it was kind of like the beginning of our podcast, over a year ago, 2 years ago now. And just the friendship they have.
Right.
And
that's us.
Their connection and the way they talk to each other and chat and kind of share. Share their love of teaching and also their concerns about some of the struggles of teaching. So why don't let's go next door, the province next door, right?
To see the teachers that are next door.
Okay. We have, let's go see Michelle and Nicole.
The teachers next door.
So let's go to Alberta.
Right.
So today on After the Bell, we are excited to have two fellow podcasters on and two amazing teachers from the province of Alberta, Michelle and Nicole. Welcome to After the Bell, Michelle and Nicole. So excited.
Thanks for having us. Thank you. Us too.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay. As you tell us on your website, Michelle is a former administrator turned classroom warrior and a veteran elementary school teacher who loves being with children. Michelle is proud to say that she has published her first children's book and has started their podcast, Teachers Next Door, which just released their 10th episode. Congratulations.
Yeah. And Nicole, you've written two books too, I believe, right?
I have written two books, yes.
Fantastic. So maybe we'll get into those later. That'd be awesome. So Nicole is also a veteran teacher, former administrator, author, and sports mom who somehow manages to keep it all together. Nicole brings the unorganized chaos of real life to the table. She believes every teacher deserves a friend who gets it, and that's exactly what she aims to be on the Teachers Next Door podcast. And Roy he's my Michelle.
Thank you. I think.
Everybody needs a teacher next door.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted to hear the kinds of conversations teachers have in the parking lot after school, in the hallway, before the bell, or while hiding beside the photocopier, hoping nobody asks them to cover another class, these two have mastered that art.
So today we're going to talk teaching, podcasting, the joys and chaos of education, and probably a few things that should stay out of the official staff meeting minutes. So Michelle, Nicole, welcome to After the Bell.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. We are excited. And as Michelle had mentioned prior, a little bit nervous, but we're excited.
Okay, well, I'm going to calm that nervousness with the ABC 1, 2, 3. I'm going to ask you to make a choice we'll have two choices. There's no wrong answer, which will make you more nervous because whenever anyone says there's no wrong answer, you always feel there is
the answer.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're going to go with this. Okay. So and I'm going to direct this to Michelle first and then to Nicole. Okay. Who is more likely to break the door and who is more likely to knock on it? Michelle, what do you think?
I think Nicole might be the one that would break the door and I might knock on it.
Okay. What do you say, Nicole?
That was 100% accurate.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. B, what is a classroom phrase you never want to hear again?
The one that I'm using most often these days, which Nicole says is a complete sentence, I'll wait. I'm sure my kids don't want to hear that today for quite a while.
Mine is, did you wash your hands? Because that means that something gross was on them.
Just my wife's a kindergarten teacher, and she just came home today and said exactly the same thing. Someone had two fingers up their nose for half the day and said, "Did you wash your hands?" over and over again. So totally get it.
Okay. C, what's one word that describes this school year for each of you?
The word that comes to my mind is exciting. I have a beautiful class of curious learners, and there is no shortage of curiosity, wonder, excitement. They seem to take everything way farther than I've ever planned, and it's really exciting to see their learning and growth.
Mine is actually disjointed. We in Alberta had a teacher strike.
Yes.
So we had a very disjointed school year. And actually, Michelle and I are in different systems. So I am in the public system through the ATA, and she is not in the public system in a bit of a different context. So she didn't. She obviously was one with us, walked alongside us from her district and supported teachers full-heartedly. But I walked through the strike as a teacher being off of work and out of classrooms. So I would say disjointed is my word.
Yeah, and that's hard. Roy and I were talking about 2014. We were out in strike in June, and then it continued in September. So we had it hanging over all summer, and we had another month off on strike. So I understand.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Yeah. Michelle, what grade do you teach?
I teach grade 2, and so I am teaching at a public charter school. And so we are publicly funded, but we are under our own separate board. So we are not members of the ATA. And so when the strike happened, we weren't striking because we aren't unionized. However, also asking for the same thing as the unionized teachers were. Yeah. It was a terrible time. It was horrible to watch. And I felt quite helpless during that time because I felt like we supported the teachers, of course, who were striking, but didn't have that same voice in the same way. I do have one of my own personal children who go to the same or went to go to the same school where Nicole used to work. And so as a parent, it wasn't tricky for him to be out of school necessarily because he's in a good place, but it was really tricky to watch what his teachers were going through.
Yeah. And I mean, your biggest issue was class size and support for that. And that was our big issue in 2014. Yeah. At least we achieved it. We got our language back. We actually have it in our collective agreement. We have class size language. So maybe we'll get into that later. Nicole, what do you teach?
I am part of the classroom complexity team. Okay. And so I am a literacy interventionist.
Okay, that's right. Wow. How exciting. You enjoy that. Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Can each of you name 3 songs that belong on the ultimate teacher's playlist? If you could think of 3 songs that would just go on a playlist for teachers. Michelle?
Goodness. Okay. I'm the worst at naming titles or artists, and I don't want to sing on your podcast, so let me think. Okay, the one that comes to mind obviously first is Hold On for One More Day by Wilson Phillips. That's running through our heads, I think, quite a bit this day.
Okay, yeah.
These days. I'll have to think.
One of the ones that I love is like, Guess Who's Back Again? We always, like in the morning, sometimes teachers in my school just come in and sing. And we're like, yeah, we're back again and just doing the same thing. So we kind of love that when we come on in.
Sang this one for Nicole and I cannot remember who sings it, but it's something like, my head is like football. I think I'm gonna die.
Oh,
singing with me, oh my.
Wasn't that a part?
Rovers.
Rovers.
Rovers. Could have been the 4th. That's a great song. Yeah. Anything else? Nicole, can you think of anything else?
I think sometimes, like, again, I have a staff that loves to sing. So for some reason, Eye of the Tiger comes on quite a bit and it just kind of just pumps us all up.
Yeah. Nicole, can you think of the best way to survive the month of June?
Just lean on your people.
Yeah.
Touch base with as many colleagues as you possibly can that bring you joy, even if it's for 30 seconds in the morning or at lunch or whatnot. So I think just connecting with your people.
Michelle?
I think I would go with humor. I think anytime you can laugh as a teacher, it's a good time. I was playing this short science video today for the students and a commercial came on. And it was this little baby talking and the kids just burst into laughter. Yeah. And it was so funny to me, the commercial and their laughter, that we searched up the commercial and watched it again and just let it go. We laughed as hard as we could and then we moved on to the next thing, but just building in those moments and using that humor.
I think that's so important. And we all know how hard June is, but the public does not, right? They often think it's winding down, must be nice. You're just, on field trip every day. So I like the idea of laughter. Michelle, can you think of a teacher in your own childhood, go back, who had a really significant impact on your life, who stands out?
I have many. I grew up in a little town in Manitoba and I went to the same school, K to 12. Some of the teachers there taught my mom and dad and then taught us kids. The one teacher that's standing out to me right now is my grade 4 teacher. Her name is Miss Hannah. She put her heart and soul into the job. Everybody knows that. But one of the things I remember the most is she would travel every summer overseas and explore new countries. And then she would bring things back from her travels and create these thematic units that connected language, music, social science, all of the things. And it just caused me to be so curious about the world. I lived in a little town of less than 2,000 people, and she brought that world to us and definitely was an inspiration for me in becoming a teacher.
I would imagine she was just so excited about it too, because she was connecting the world that she had just seen from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cole, do you have a favorite teacher who stands out?
I do. His name is Steve Powery. He was my grade 7 teacher. And also, luckily enough, in university, he was a professor of ours in the education program. So I got to have him twice. I've also dedicated my second book to him, and he's in the book. I've kept connection with him ever since grade 7. So he is definitely 100% the reason why I'm a teacher today.
There you go. And I always talk about my grade 5 teacher. We're going out for lunch next week. I had her in 1976, right? And it was just this.
I love that.
And it's just wonderful to reconnect with her. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to start with some questions now. Now that we're all relaxed.
Sounds great.
Okay. So,
You've put us at ease.
Yeah, you have.
I hope to hear. I hope. All right. So where did the name Teachers Next Door come from?
Do you want to take
That
this one,
was
Nicole?
Teachers Next Door. Where did the name come from? So we really milled over the name forever. We knew we were going to start a podcast, but it took us up a good month to figure out the name of it. And so one day we were just talking, and so we were neighbors. We were like physical neighbors. Our houses were right beside each other when we first met. And so we all just kind of connected, like, how could we talk about neighborhoods and being connected through being in the neighbor, being next door. And all of a sudden we're like, teacher next door. Everyone needs a teacher next door. So whether that's in your building, across the hallway, in another building, but just technically having that teacher friend beside you. And we were literal neighbors. So we thought it worked hand in hand together.
Fantastic. And it's the name. I don't think there's no other podcast that uses that name. Where we came up with our name, we're all excited about it. And then Vancouver School Board actually has an After the Bell podcast with the same name. But so
And
far,
then
no lawsuits have happened.
WWF has it After the Bell too.
Yeah.
So oftentimes when someone says, "Oh, I looked up After the Bell and wrestling came up," and I said, "Well, we don't do that anymore."
And I don't know if you realize we're known as the Stunt Brothers, and it's just my last name, Stubel, with Hunt.
That's how it came up. Okay.
And years ago, because we've known each other since 1995. And so my kids, they have no cousins in their life. There's no cousins. So I went camping with Roy and his family, and I decided I'm going to make my kids have cousins. So we created the Stunt Family Reunion, and his kids became cousins to my kids. And that was just the beginning of the name Stunt, which goes back a long time.
Remember
That's so
you
cool.
explaining that on a podcast. I think you were maybe hosting somebody from Ontario, maybe a teacher.
Yeah.
And he had asked you, or maybe you were on their podcast, actually.
I think it was Tim
But I thought,
Casey, the Teachers on Fire podcast. Yeah.
yes. And I remember thinking, I always wanted to know what the answer to that was, but I thought you guys did tricks or something as well. Like, you probably do.
There's another podcast like that, and they are the Stunt Brothers, and they do stunts. They are stunt actors. So yes,
we do some TikTok videos, and we played on the name at the beginning of the videos where we were like, we'd have our bikes and we'd be looking at this big cliff and then look at each other and shake our head. It's not, we'd say we'd rather be podcasting. So we have tried that.
Well, teaching is kind of like doing stunts, actually, if you think
really
about it.
You are a stunt person for sure. Yeah. And I listened to one episode today, and you were talking about you do your podcast at 5 a.m. What?
We do. Yeah, we wake up usually Thursday morning. Sometimes we've done a couple at nighttime, but mostly Thursday mornings, or sometimes on a Saturday morning, actually also early. And we just like to record an episode before our kids get up and before our dogs need to be walked. Yeah. And it actually works for both Michelle and I. Michelle and I used to actually, when we were neighbors, we don't actually not neighbors anymore. Sadly, we both moved to different places, but we used to walk our dogs together literally at that time in the morning. So we are used to being up early. We're early birds. And so that just kind of works for us in our schedules.
Your only free time, right?
Yeah, my motto is get it in before the world needs us, because they need us.
And so what made you decide they needed you two to do a podcast? Where did that idea start and begin? What made you jump into the podcasting world?
Well, I think through our morning 5 a.m. walk and talks, we had this idea quite a while ago. And of course, when you're on an adventure like this, it takes you a while to get started. We just felt like we had an opportunity to connect teachers during a time where perhaps there is some disconnection, right? There's lots going on in the teaching world with it continuing to become more complex. We thought that we could give the teachers an opportunity to have another way to connect, a community to be in, a soft place to land, to share some truths and honesty about teaching, but also share some light and love and humor. And we have lots of years of experience, but by no means are we experts. And I think that's important for people to know that we're always learning, and teaching is, I believe, a state of becoming, right? Like you're always learning and always growing. And so we felt like we had an opportunity for us to share our journeys and what we're experiencing, but also give other people some light and opportunity to share on our podcast through being guests and writing in and sharing their stories as well.
Fantastic.
But really, Michelle kind of is the one that kept it going, because we talked about it for years and then we kind of let it go, and then everything that's happening, right? Michelle has 4 children. I have 2 children, and they're very involved in activities and whatnot. And Michelle just called me one day and basically didn't really give me a choice to say no, even though she of course did. But she's like, I'm going to do it. Are we going to do it? And then I was like, called her back probably, honestly, was it 10 seconds later? I was like, okay, I'm in. And then it just all went from there. And we launched our first episode kind of accidentally. We were just going to take some time and really plan it out, because her and I are both planners. And then we were like, nope, we're just going to release it into the world. Michelle hadn't even told her mom yet. And honestly, this feedback from our colleagues was like all we needed. Everyone was so excited, so on board, being like, are you going to do this every week? And then we're like, oh, we have a weekly podcast now.
No going back.
It was Nicole. So even though it launched accidentally, it was Nicole that was like, we're ripping off this Band-Aid. We have this recording. It's edited, right? We're learning all of this from the bottom up. We had a lot of learning to do to prepare that first podcast. But she was like, we're ripping off the Band-Aid. I'm putting something out on social media tonight. And I did say, I haven't even told my mom. Like, I have to call my mom. So I called my mom, my brother, my sister. I was like, okay, that's all I have time to do. Put it out there. And here we are.
Well, it's interesting when you say that. We told our families that we were doing a podcast, but I didn't tell my family that we were doing TikTok videos. So my daughter was at home scrolling on the couch, and out of nowhere, I heard, what? Dad's on TikTok? And actually, that was worth worth the wait.
We haven't tried TikTok yet. Maybe that's our next avenue.
So congratulations on the 10th episode. When I'm trying to remember who it was talking to their son and said, podcasts don't really go past 10 episodes. And at which point, I guess it was Michelle. And then someone's son said, does that mean you're done?
Yeah, it was my husband. He was like, does that mean we're all done? So I'm like, sorry, can't. Half the podcast.
I don't even understand how anyone could do a podcast solely on their own. Martin and I work together. Martin does a lot of the heavy lifting when I'm teaching. He's really good. He has great writing skills that surpass mine. I laugh a lot, so I think that's my thing. But when we're together, that dynamic, how is that different than when you're just hanging out as friends? How does the podcast duo work together? What's the secret sauce kind of thing?
Michelle and I we were instant friends. Do you know when you meet someone and you walk away and you're like, that's one of my people. You just knew. And that's how I feel like when we're together. So even when we get together to mastermind and go through our show notes or whatnot, we laugh so hard to the point where I don't know if we're going to get anything done. But then all of a sudden, 3 hours later, we've queued 3 shows and we just feed off of, I think, that friendship first. And then that kind of podcasting business side of things second. I've always known how smart Michelle is, but she is brilliant. I started with the editing piece of it where I learned the editing and she learns the whole back system of it, like how to get it launched and onto the different channels. I still don't really know how to do that, to be honest. So we each have our strengths, but I would say our friendship first is why our dynamic duo, I guess if you will say, works so well together.
Yeah, and that's like Roy and I, right? I mean, it was instant friends years ago, and you just had a chemistry right away. And we've actually done acting together. We were part of this local theater group, and they often do these pantos where they take stories and there's a baddie and goodie. And Roy and I were the evil stepsisters in costume, right? For Cinderella. And it just, I guess we've learned that, the give and take kind of connection and the chemistry. And it's just, we have so much fun doing the podcast. It's just a hoot. Honestly, there could be nobody listening and we could still keep doing it.
We'd still do it.
It makes me think to our early morning walk and talks when we were able and blessed to be neighbors. We would have our early morning walk and talks. And then at the end of the day, if we pulled into our respective driveways at a similar time, we would stand out in the cul-de-sac and debrief our days. And I'm sure our husbands wondered when we were ever going to come inside. But I just wanted to say that Nicole is the brains behind this production. That whole editing piece, she just took on fearlessly. And she's saying, I don't know how you do the distribution and all the back part. And I'm thinking she had to give me a whole tutorial one morning on the editing because she had figured it out all on her own and is just brilliant on the social media, which I'm so grateful for.
You're doing that, Nicole, while teaching. I retired and we started the podcast right away. So I've taken this on as my new job. So I have the time to just focus and treat it that way, which has been great. Because I'm not one to sit around and do nothing. So it's given me a purpose and a focus, and it's still connected to my history and what I'd done as a teacher. But it just gave me this avenue that I just love doing and learning new skills. And like you say, that learning curve is so steep, but you just do it. Go ahead and you learn it.
It's so steep, and we're learning every day.
I was just going to say, you'll love this because if my own children or kids at school, I don't say this to kids at school, but to my own kids, when they say, oh, I don't know how to do this or I can't figure this out, I'm like, look, if your mother can figure out how to produce a podcast, you need to try a little harder and a little longer, right? Like things are figure-outable. Yeah, it just takes time, right?
And when you had that very first episode, how did you feel? Like when you did your first one, when you go, yes. Did you know
that was wild.
Every week? Yeah.
I wanted to throw up. You know what it is? And I think you guys know what this means. You're putting yourself out there. It's like you're opening your home to someone. You haven't really prepared in a way. Maybe you don't have the appetizers ready. You haven't cleaned all the bathrooms. And all of a sudden you just welcome in your company that comes an hour early. That's how I felt the day we put our podcast out. It was like, everyone's going to judge this. Everyone's going to have an opinion. Everyone's going to say something. Yeah. And of course they are, and we can't control that. But the cool thing was the opinions that came into us and the messages, like our phones blew up because we did not tell our colleagues. And everyone was just like, oh my goodness, you guys have a podcast. We listened to it. It's amazing. When's your next episode? And they were so supportive. And that really gave us that motivation to be like, okay, maybe we have something here.
And a good podcast is what you guys do. It's like eavesdropping on a conversation. You're just kind of joining the conversation midstream, then go, oh, wow. And I think Roy and I, when we started, we were actually, I think, too scripted. We kind of planned it out too much, where we've evolved into what I think I see you two doing, and just do it. Just talk. Just get it out there. And it's not always going to be perfect and you'll stumble and you're not sure where you're going, but that's what people want to hear, I think. It's more comforting than something that's so, here we go, next part, right? They're tired of that world that's too organized. And just listen. Here are two teachers who are going through the same thing I'm going through.
And you guys are very easy to listen to. My son and I were listening to some of the episodes while driving, and he just loved it too.
Oh,
he
nice.
just thought you were really easy to listen to and funny. And, you know, I'm of course soaking up all of the teacher bit, right? But he's soaking up how you guys made him feel while he was listening to you. And yeah, you're very easy to listen to.
Okay. One of the questions now, getting into more teaching. So what do you think one of the biggest misconceptions are for non-teachers, for people who don't teach, while we're teaching in like 2026? So the people out there, what are the biggest misconceptions they have about teaching?
I think that public perception sometimes might think that teaching is between our hours of 8 and 3 p.m., which we know is never the case. There's no way you could get your job done within contractual hours. It's a huge misconception, I think. And also the idea of back in the day, perhaps when there was more stand and deliver. I don't know when the last time I stand and delivered a lesson was. Today, even alone, I have 9 different blocks in my day, and I have 9 different groups of students as a literacy interventionist, all ranging from grade 1 to grade 6. And I had anything today from reading, intervention with small group, to ended up being pulled for coverage for a classroom. Your days never look the same as well. So a stand and deliver where you open up to page 38 and you teach that lesson, that's not a thing in schools anymore. So I think that there's just a lot of different misconceptions.
I would just add to that I think people would think that teaching is the visible part, right? That we arrive when the kids arrive and walk out the door when they do. But there's so much of that invisible curriculum that we do all day, every day that is not planned out. Sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, you're still teaching grade 2 or, oh, you're still teaching kindergarten. But every year is a new group of students with different learning needs, different families. It's a whole different complexity. It's not like you're just repeating verbatim what you did before. It's so much more than that.
And as you say, like that workload is so much greater than anybody in the public knows. If there was one thing tomorrow you could take off a teacher's plate,
administrative overhead. So when I say administrative overhead, I think of all the extra things that teachers do that nobody sees. Things from field trips to collecting money for events, sending out newsletters, just all the administrative overhead of things. I know it's part of the gig, but it does weigh you down. And it seems like it's more.
I think for me, it would be to take away that need to always do more with less. So doing more each year with less time, money, resources. And although our class sizes in our system are quite good, I would say taking away those larger class sizes, right? Most teachers leave at the end of the day feeling already that they haven't done enough. And with those large class sizes, it's impossible.
Those needs are so much greater now too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so much greater. And Michelle and I, we were talking about this on an episode recently because our districts are different again, right? And so our class sizes are not small and we have quite large class sizes, some 30 grade 1s in a classroom.
Wow.
And so I was saying that class size is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And I know that that's a whole, we kind of went on a tangent there, but it definitely, we come back to that time and time again, is I think that people also think that because they know maybe their context of their learner, and let's say if their learner's in, a class of 21 little grade 1s or whatnot, but then they don't know that down the street, there's a class of 30 grade 1s, right? So it's not, the context in every building is different. And I think that maybe the outside public doesn't realize that.
No, they don't. No.
Today I was in a classroom, one of the first straight grade 6 classes that I've been in a while. Oftentimes there are split classes. The numbers are reduced in split classes, but as a straight class, there were 29 grade 6s in the classroom. And it was, I had an amazing time with them today. Did I have to redirect and stop and do things? Yes, I did. But it was nice because at the end of the day, I left a letter for the teacher just saying like this group of grade 6s are going to be amazing leaders next year in grade 7. Wow. So it's the things like that that I see, even with, what seems to be a large number, 29, there are some really positive things that can come out of it. And
we're capped at 29. And no primary class would have more than 22, and no kindergarten will have more than 20. And even in today's class, I would say primary should be 15, actually. It's not like 22 is that great anymore. But when I hear classes of 30, wow. Challenging.
I'm actually originally from British Columbia, so all of my friends are still teaching there, and that's where I did my BEd and whatnot. So I know kind of when we were going through all of this year with the strike, I was asking a lot of questions and asking how that all works. So I kind of understand a bit more about it now because I've always just taught in Alberta, even though I was trained in BC. So it's definitely a different.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's one thing that teachers are struggling with that no one's talking about?
I think I kind of alluded to it in the last question a little bit, but I think it's that teachers care so much and care so deeply. And I think working so hard and trying to meet the needs of all the children, but often going home at the end of the day like they didn't quite get enough done, quite reach a learner who they were trying to reach. I think that weighs on teachers heavily.
I would agree with what Michelle's saying. I believe it's what we put on ourselves because we do care so deeply and we want all children to succeed. I think that not knowing when to say that's enough, right? So like when to just kind of put the laptop down and pour into your own life. And I know that I have been the worst. And so Michelle and I actually have a parallel life on this. We've both been really bad with boundaries as teachers and as administrators, especially. But we have gotten better at it this last few years. And I know I'm better for it. So I do try to leave most of my work at school if possible, or I have one day a week where I stay late and on purpose. And then I try to get all that stuff done that one day a week. And then that way I know that when I actually leave work, I'm actually home with my family. So I always tell a new teacher, for example, that you can love your job and still live your life.
Yes. Yeah.
That is hard to understand, but it's true.
You could be there till midnight every night and you're not going to be done. You're
No,
not.
no.
Now,
Michelle has a great line for that. It's like, what did your mentor say, Michelle, about is this good enough? Like sometimes things just have to be good enough.
Yeah, sometimes good is good enough, right?
Yeah.
When we were staying late and putting in those long extra hours, and then you realize you've missed dinner with your family or whatever sporting event, or tucking your kids into bed at night, right? Those days happen, especially in your beginning days or depending on the complexity of your classroom. But you do have to have those batch days too, or take things home at night, or you carry with you it in your head, right? Whichever child or all the children you're worrying about, right? It never leaves you.
No.
Now, you both were administrators at one time. Can you share what your administrators' positions were?
Yes. I was in an elementary context. That's my background. So I was an administrator. We call them assistant principals in the district that I'm in.
Yeah.
And so similar to a vice principal. And I was at one school for 4 years and I was at the other school for 3 years. So in total, I had 7 years of being in administration, and I was asked many times to go into the principal pool and work up that path. And I loved being an administrator. Don't get me wrong. I went into administration to support teachers, which ultimately supports students.
Yeah.
And I loved my role with those adults and families and students. However, I missed desperately being with kids all day long. I went back to the classroom and then I had to relinquish my position because it was exactly what I wanted. And I also felt like I was not giving as much attention as I needed to with my own children at home. And so going back in the classroom, as much as we all know teaching is just as hard as being an administrator, I just know I could put a bit more boundaries on my time and I could be with the kids more. So I miss parts of being an administrator. I loved it, but I also love being back in the classroom with kids.
I think she stole my notes. My story is very similar. So I taught kindergarten and grade 1 for a few years. And then I was asked to be a coach for new teachers who were joining the staff the year that I was teaching grade 1. And then one of our associate principals, we call them, went on maternity leave, and I was asked to apply for that. I had already started taking my master's, and I thought, sure, like I'll put my name in that for that year, and loved it and continued on. So I had only taught for a couple of years before I entered administration. And then I was in administration for 15 years, but had my 4 babies in that time. And I really wanted to go back to the classroom for all the same reasons that Nicole said. Really, I was a baby when I went into administration. I hadn't had my own classroom for very long, and I longed for that reconnection with kids. They were really my fuel, and teaching, reading, writing, math, all the things. And so I've been back in the classroom for 7 years. And although our podcast listeners don't know this, I am returning to administration again this fall into the same position. And I have loved my time in the classroom. It's been such an incredible gift. And I'm also looking forward to going back into administration where I can support teachers in a different way and in turn support all those kids.
Nice.
I was wondering if you were going to spill the beans on this episode.
I spilled the beans.
Let's go in a direction where what is the strangest parent request you have ever received?
I've had many. We've all had many. We all know that. But I remember this one time that this family wanted me to host their child's birthday party, and not just like cupcakes, like full on host the birthday party where they could bring in like piñata and they could open presents. The whole class would be invited. Well, ultimately, yes, because it's in my classroom. They wanted their grandparents to come. This one neighbor, I was like, no, whoa, let's hold the brakes here. I'm like, I will gladly like distribute cupcakes. But that is where I'm stopping. But they would not let it go. Like they ended up going above me to the principal to ask why I couldn't have this birthday party in the classroom during class time. Anyways, no, it was a hard no, but they were relentless on asking.
Amazing. Wow.
That's pretty funny, Nicole. I was thinking about this. I can't really recall a strange request, but I can tell you of a strange encounter I had in my very first year of teaching. We run something called family orientation where the families come with their child and they get 10 or 15 minutes with us before the school year starts. And I was a brand new teacher in a brand new building, taking over for a teacher who had been teaching there for quite a long time, but she was moving to a new school and I was moving in. So a mom and her daughter came to the door, and I introduced myself and I invited them in, and the mom said to me, "We want you to know that we don't like you." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "We sat around the dinner table last night and we talked about how we don't like you." And I thought, okay. I said, "Would you like to come in and sit at the table and tell me more about that?" And they did. They wanted to come in and tell me more about that. And something in my young soul told me, this is so not about me. They are upset that they didn't get the teacher who they wanted, who was in here before. And so they came in, and I know inside, like I was dying inside because I wanted to cry, right? Like I thought, oh my gosh, what is happening? But my mind said, invite them in, talk it over, try to win them over and send them on their way. So it totally turned out fine. But after that meeting, I went down to my principal and said, "You won't believe what just happened." And he couldn't believe I invited them in to talk about it more, but that's what I needed to do.
And what a learning moment for you. Like, wow, incredible. Now,
Who doesn't like you, Michelle? Like everybody likes you.
No.
They probably love you now.
It turned out to be a fine year, but my head weren't quite as pleasant.
Sometimes the child's just intent on this one teacher that they've heard about, and that's the teacher they want. I'm sure within no time they realized Michelle was the best teacher they had.
It will be okay. I had big shoes to fill.
Now, you two both, clearly you love the joy of teaching. Like it means a lot to you. And I think that's the wonderful thing about this profession. Like it's the hardest job in the world, but if you love it, it's the greatest job, right? It really is. How do you both find that joy in teaching, even on harder days, just to get you through the day? How do you find the joy? Nicole?
I find my joy through those little interactions. So the little connections with kids, the inside jokes, asking about what they did last night or asking them about a hockey game or playing their instrument. So I try to always get to know at the beginning of the year, as all teachers, we do get to know our kids, but really those a couple of specific things about each kid. So if I'm having a hard day with them, I will go back and ask them about something. So recently, and I'm new to a school because I've just actually switched school boards completely into this new role. And so I was with my last school board for almost 22 years, and now I'm in a new school board. So I've only been there, this is my 6th week, and just getting to know the groups I'm working with. And there was this one student that was having a tricky time, was like, there's no way they were going to do anything for me. But I knew this child was really into dirt biking. I know nothing about dirt biking, but I found out about what type of dirt bike this child had and brought it up, and they worked for me within about 10 minutes. So I just have to find those little nuggets that can keep them going, because I get it. There's hard days for kids too. And so if I can find a connection to make with them, then I find that brings me joy because I've made that personal connection, is the one reason. The second reason is that I see how my own children come home from school, and when it's because of teachers, I just think, wow, like someone did that for my own kids. So if I can do that for somebody else's kids, then that's what I would want as a parent. So that's really in the back of my head all the time.
Wow. Michelle?
That's great, Nicole. I love that. I can build on that. For me, it's the kids. They're the fuel. They make me laugh out loud all of the time. The things that they come up with, they're so funny and so brutally honest. Sometimes you're like, did that really just happen? But also so curious. And I mean, grade 2, they love learning. They love coming to school, being with their friends, being with their teacher. And I think I would add to that is our teams. So the teams of teachers really become your family, right? I know, Nicole, that's the same for you as well. Those people that you work with every day are your community and your family, and that can really shape and support your school year.
One of your episodes, I think it's called You Can't Make This Up. You were talking about some of those stories and those things that happen, kids throwing up and all these things that can take place. Right? And Roy and I were talking about it. We've both been on buses before where one kid throws up and it's contagious. It never bothered me dealing with it. So everybody else looks at me, oh, you go deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Mess.
Yeah, I was on a trip to outdoor school with my class, and a student behind me said, "Mr. Hunt, I'm not feeling well." So I talked to the bus driver. I turned around to face the student, and about, I'm going to say 15 kilometers away from outdoor school, this student did a projectile vomit all over me.
It's the worst.
I said, okay, let's go outside and clean you up and take care of that. So then I have to sit in the front seat of the bus because everything is buried underneath in the carriage of the bus. So, I had some paper towels, and for 15 kilometers, I just sat there and smiled.
The things people don't realize we do.
No, it's true.
My goodness. You just come home some days and you want to go straight into the shower.
Yes.
What other job has that, right? But on the other hand, what other job has that you don't even think about the time in the day, right? Because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I've mentioned on previous podcasts, you get down moments in your life, and going into the classroom was the best place to go.
Yes.
Like, that's the joy. I'm grateful for that. Right.
So what is one thing that students bring to school that you wish they wouldn't?
Well, right now, I don't know if it's a big thing in BC, but those Nidos, you can't find them in Alberta. Do you guys know what we're talking about? They're called
I don't
Nido.
know.
Okay.
I probably
they're-
have one here
I was
somewhere.
going to say, my kids have them, and I should have brought one. They are just a fidget tool, but they're
Okay.
really a toy. They call them fidget tools, but they're basically a toy, and they're cool. And I like even playing with it. They're mesmerizing for the kids, and they cannot keep their hands off it. And they're really a hot commodity here. I'm not joking. Like, they're sold out everywhere. You cannot get them at any toy store. You can't get them at Chapters. People wait in line for hours to get them. Just don't want them at school right now because everybody is just like, oh, which one did you get? Or I don't have one yet. Or can I play with it? So
No.
if I see it out, I'm like, guys, sorry, it's got to go in your backpack.
I was thinking of my junior high and high school kids. The hacky sack trend has returned. So I don't know for you guys, like Roy, you're in the classroom these days. I don't know if they're hacky sacking out in BC.
No, but right now the big thing is those squishy things that have, I guess it's like a Newtonian fluid, but basically it's cornstarch and water in like a bag. And so they like a squishy toy. So that's a big thing. But right now, what really I'm seeing in a lot of classrooms, like a steamed bun. And so it's a round steamed bun, and inside there's meat. They're making them as squishy toys. So on the
I've seen them.
on the desk, they have these little bamboo steamer boxes. This bamboo steamer box would be about that big around. And so they're sitting there, and then they lift the lid off the box and they pull out their steamed bun squishy toy, and they're all different colors. I would say the last 2 years, it was Rubik's Cubes were huge. Everybody had a Rubik's Cube, and they're playing with Rubik's Cubes. But these squishy things, and then after a while, they break them open. And this white ooze is everywhere, and it's in the younger classes. It's crazy.
You both have written books. Do you want to have a chance to do some promotion for your books? Tell us about them. What got you into this, and what they're children's books and picture books, I believe. So tell us about these new books.
So I published my first children's book, and it was all about actually me losing my flair for teaching and how I regained it back. Like, it's based on a time of my career where I thought maybe teaching, even though I knew it was for me, but I was burnt out, right? So it's called Miss Claire's Lost Her Flair. And it's about how the student helps her see her value and her worth and helps her get it back. It was written and dedicated to teachers. And so my vision was that teachers would read the story to their students and see themselves in the book. So that was my first children's book. And then my second children's book is it's become a series actually now. And so it's about the same character, a teacher named Miss Claire. It's Miss Claire, Teacher Extraordinaire. And the second book is about how she helps a new student find their way in the school environment, just because many of us get new students and we know it can be tricky for those kiddos to make connections. So again, it's about hopefully teachers being able to read that to their students, especially to classes that have perhaps new students to their classes or kids that are having trouble making friendships and walking them through that path. And then in the fall, my third book in this series will come out, and it's called Coach Claire. So she becomes a coach now within the school environment.
And Michelle, you just published a book, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So my book is not directly connected to education, but it is a story that I was telling my boys at bedtime. As a mom, I would read to the kids every night, but they would often request that I would make up stories. And there was this one particular story that they would request every night. And so it would grow bigger and, be embellished more every night. And the kids would say to me, you need to publish this. And I would say, someday. And realizing that someday was never going to happen until I made it happen.
Yeah.
I was actually with Nicole. We had taken our young kids at the time to a play place, and she had told me that she was publishing her first book. And I was so happy for her. And also thinking at the same time, look at her doing what I want to do. Like, if she can do this, I can get her to support me and help me and show me the ropes. And so then I published my children's book, and it's called The Happiest Place in the World. It's about a little boy who's overprotected by his parents. They don't let him live his life or really play for fear he'll get hurt or something will happen to him. And he runs off to what he perceives to be the happiest place in the world, which is like a Disneyland setting, and then realizes that he's not happy there because he misses the people who he loves the most and his community. And so off he goes home, and his parents change their ways and realize they need to stop being helicopter parents and let him live his life and grow a little bit.
Fantastic. And where can people purchase a copy of that?
Yeah, so it's also, you can purchase it through our website. The links are all there at teachersnextdoorpodcast.com. Like Nicole's, you can find it on Amazon, and my book is also on Indigo, at Indigo too.
Couple
Thanks,
more
guys.
questions. We appreciate your time. So we'll wrap it up soon.
How has teaching changed from when you started compared to now?
I think that teaching has changed with the change of curriculum. It's the change of technology. I was thinking about when I started teaching, my sister and brother gave me a little metal chalk holder, right? And that was the year that the first whiteboards were installed in our classroom. I never had a computer when I first started teaching, of course. Then I got a computer that worked one day a week, sort of thing. And then just the increasing demands. I think student needs definitely. And I wrestle with that as giving that as an answer because I'm trying to figure out why things are more complex with our students. I mean, I think that's a whole other podcast episode, but it's big. It's a big deal. And then that ties right back in full circle, I think, to what Nicole said about resources and support.
So despite these challenges, and that we just know the plate is so full, but what keeps you hopeful about the future of education, teaching? What keeps you in the game? And if you were, say, a new teacher, what would you say to them to make them have hope for what sounds to many like an impossible job?
Really, the days can be tough and the days can be long. But for me personally, there's not a day that I don't want to be there. I love to go and be in our community. And really, it is the community of educators that are so passionate about teaching. And, you know, they're there because they love the job. They find it rewarding and they love spending the time helping to make a difference in those kids' lives. It is true what Nicole says, that daily check-in of, is this the kind of teacher that I would want to be for my own kids or want my own kids to have? But I think also trying to take time for looking after ourselves, which can be hard to do as teachers, that when we get into those tough moments or realize we need to fuel ourselves, that we actually take the time to do it and give ourselves some rest and some love and some self-care. So I'm very hopeful. I love teaching, and I feel like there are great educators doing great work.
That was beautifully said. So thank you.
So if you could choose one guest to be on your podcast, who would it be?
You don't have to say the Stunt Brothers. It's okay. It can be anybody. Somebody you think you could never get on.
Well, we do have the same list because we've been working on it together. And yes, you guys are on it. So we'll have to arrange that after the show. I am going to pick our dear friend and mentor, Erin. Her name is Erin Sky Kelly, and she is someone who Nicole and I really look up to. She has been a coach for both of us, and she's a big reason why both of us are here and have started our podcast. And I think that if she was a guest on our podcast, she could really talk to our audience about goal setting, habits for overall wellness and well-being. I think she could talk about keeping promises to ourselves and really sticking true to our beliefs and our boundaries and developing our integrity. I think another episode could be about finances for teaching. She's a financial coach.
Oh, yes.
And I think that it's not talked about enough in the world of education. And I think that could be a whole other episode or series for teachers as they prepare for their future and retirement.
That's fantastic. We have not done one on financial issues either, but we've often said it's vital, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Michelle, Nicole, thank you so much for this appearance. It's been an absolute delight to have you on After the Bell. We so appreciate connecting and meeting two fellow podcasters and hearing about teaching from other perspectives in this world. And that's, to me, this is just enriching, and it's part of my joy is connecting with people like you.
Me too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure, you guys. What an honor to be with you today. I've been listening to your podcasts, and I was so excited to be on here with Nicole. And we just really appreciate you having us and just supporting us. We've read your comments on Spotify and loved your email when you reached out to us, and we just really feel supported by you.
Thank you very much.
Nicole and Michelle,
That was really good.
Teachers Next Door.
You could tell that they're friends.
Yes.
They were just giving each other compliments. So you're like, oh, no, you're better than that.
No.
Oh, no, you're better than that than I am. And
You're better.
I just say, oh, you're better than that.
Oh, I can never match that laugh. I won't even enter that competition. So you're better at that than I am.
Well, I don't know why, but the two of them remind me of a skit from SNL.
Okay. Which what?
And it's called the Bronx Beat or the Bronx Box with Maya Rudolph and Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
And they're two moms.
Yeah.
And they interview people from their community.
Yeah.
But they're good friends.
Yes. Yeah.
And then so they play upon that friendship.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not exactly like them, but I don't know why, but
it has the spirit
somehow it has a spirit of that love of being together.
Yeah. And I just love the way they decided we're going to do a podcast, and they basically pressed record and started to do it. And just kind of like you and I. We decided we're doing this. Sometimes you just got to jump in life, right? You can talk and talk all you want.
And I think one of the things that we did, we were overly scripted when we started. We were very cautious. And I just love the fact that they just sit down and just start talking.
Yeah. And that's what we start to do now, right?
We're better at
almost
that. I'm better at that. You were always good at that.
No, it's gelled. You are fantastic at it, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you are. And I think
now I think their podcast and our podcast with them is rubbed off because you're just full of compliments.
Yeah. To me, the best podcast, you're kind of just eavesdropping on this conversation and going, wow, I like listening to those two. Right. And I really like listening to Nicole and Michelle. I listened to their podcast. They actually had their husbands on, their first guests, right? Which was just after we had talked to them. And I thought that was what a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Should we bring our wives on? They'd say, no, I don't think they'd be too enthused, would they?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
So we'll see. We'll keep working on that one.
We'll think about it.
Yeah. But thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Check out Teachers Next Door. Listen to their journey. Listen to their interaction. Because to me, this job is really hard. And the more educators you listen to that kind of make you realize we're all on the same page, we're all doing the best they can, I think it makes it a little easier.
Yes.
Yeah. So stay happy, stay healthy, stay fit. We'll see you next time on After the Bell.
Bye-bye.
Wait, is that the bell? The buses are rolling and we've got duty.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Teachers Next Door podcast. If you enjoyed this week's PD session, do us a solid. Leave a rating, 5 stars preferably, and a review. Think of it as giving us an A+ on our eval. It helps other listeners find their way to our neighborhood. As the kids say, please subscribe.
Do you have a burning question or topic you would like to hear about? Send us an email or message. Be sure to follow us on Instagram for show updates and details on future episodes.
This podcast was produced and edited by us, your Teachers Next Door. No outsourcing here. The reality of all teachers. We do it all.
If nobody else has told you today, just remember, you are doing a great job. Catch you next time.
And we should mention, the ideas we share on this podcast are totally our own.